What's up friends, hope you all are doing well and staying creative. In this video, I want to show you one of my favorite plugins that I've been using lately, and that is the Pultec EQP-1A by UAD. This is a plugin version of the hardware Pultec EQP-1A, and there's a couple other companies that have plugin versions. I think Waves has a plugin, but I've been using this UAD one on like everything, on a lot of masters, on the drum bus, even on some vocals. And it's just a very nice, like musical sounding EQ. This isn't a surgical EQ if you want to notch out very specific frequency bands, but this is more applying broad strokes. So if I want to change the overall tonal balance, this has been my go-to plugin. So let's get right into the DAW, and I'll give you a brief overview of the plugin and then we can dig in a little deeper. So on the left side of the plugin, we have a boost and attenuate knob, and you can select the frequency that you want to either boost or attenuate right here. So you have 20, 30, 60, or 100 hertz, or as they call it, cycles per second. But this frequency is actually pretty misleading, and I'll show you why in a little bit. And then moving to the right-hand side of the plugin, we have another set of boost and attenuate knobs, as well as two frequency selectors. So this frequency selector, you can go from 3 kilohertz all the way up to 16 kilohertz. And this is only affecting the boost knob. This is not affecting the attenuate knob. And then over here, you have a bandwidth control. So if you want more of a sharp Q on the boost, you can have it all the way to the left side, and all the way to the right side, it's going to give you a more broad Q, a little more smooth. For the attenuation knob, you select the frequency here. So you have the option of 5 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, or 20 kilohertz. So the interesting thing with the Pultec EQ is that this attenuation is not exactly attenuating the same frequencies that this knob is boosting. So you get a really nice musical sound. I hate to use this word musical, but that's kind of the best thing I can come up with it. I guess smooth, let's call it that. You get a very smooth, balanced sound when you boost and attenuate at the same time. So before I show you how I applied this plugin for mastering the song, let me show you how it works in a little bit more detail using Plugin Doctor. So I have the plugin open now in Plugin Doctor, and this will show us exactly how the plugin is behaving. So you can see if we start boosting, that this is a very broad curve. This is starting from almost like 500 hertz is when it starts boosting. So this 30 hertz is actually quite misleading. So you can boost all the way up to about, I think, 13 dB. That's what 10 is, kind of goes off the charts here. And then I'll show you at 20 hertz. At 20 hertz, you're kind of starting more around 100 hertz for the boost. And then you have 60 hertz, which it's starting more around like 1,000-ish, right? And then it just moves up a little bit. I generally find 20 and 30 work pretty well. I mean, you can see what you're boosting here, right? For 20, you're kind of just boosting like everything below 100. 30, you're getting a little bit of the, upper bass in there. And now the interesting thing is when you start doing the attenuation. So watch as the attenuation knob gets turned up. You start seeing this dip happening, this dip in the low mids. And this is the beautiful thing about the Pultec. And the funny thing is that, I've never owned a Pultec hardware unit ever. I mean, they're like $5,000. But supposedly in the manual of the Pultec, it actually kind of warns you not to do this for some reason. But this is kind of why this Pultec EQ became popular, was people started doing this and realizing how nice it sounds. And all the mud that we talk about like in a mix, that muddy frequencies, it's all about in this region from like 2 to 500 hertz. So when you boost and attenuate, you get all this weight in the low end, and then you get a cut in the low mids, which just cleans up the sound or track. Now let me turn this back off. Let's go to this side of the plugin. So you can see here, if I turn up the boost knob, we're getting a bell. This one's set to 8 kilohertz. Then we can move it over, and it moves over to 16, as you would expect, or we can move it down to 3, and then we can control the Q of this filter with the knob here. So if we turn it all the way to broad, it really smoothens it out. And if we turn to sharp, it becomes a little more narrow. But even at its most sharp setting, it's still not a very crazy narrow Q. It's still fairly broad. And then over here, if I turn up the attenuation, it's essentially doing a high shelf filter. And so we can set that to 20, 10, or 5. And so sometimes the way I like to use this side of the plugin is by boosting around 16 kilohertz and then attenuating at around 10 or 20. And so what that's going to do is it creates this dip. So if I boost, attenuate, creates this dip at around 5 to 8 kilohertz, which sometimes can be a very like painful area in terms of the frequency range. But then you get this upper sizzle at 16K. That's kind of where you get that airiness. So it gives you some airiness, but takes out some of the aggressive bite that you could potentially have at around 5 to 8 kilohertz. So now that you've kind of seen the inner workings of the plugin, let's go back into Ableton and I'll show you how I applied it to this master. So let's check this out. This is a track that I mastered for an artist named Jamil. I assume it's pronounced Jamil. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, bro, if I'm mispronouncing your name, but it's a really dope track coming out on Darkoform Records. And let's just take a listen. The way I'm using the EQP here is I have one instance which is boosting the low end and then doing the attenuation, and I'm setting it to 30 Hertz. So let me turn this plugin off, then I'll turn it back on so you can see the difference here. Gives a really nice punch and weight in the low end, and that attenuation knob helps a lot just to clean it up, keeping the bass from getting too muddy. And then I have another instance of the EQP-1A. I just split it up here just to make it easy to A/B each thing. So on this side I'm using the boost at 16 kilohertz, not doing any attenuation here, but hear how that sounds. So I'll turn it off. And what I love about this plugin is that boosting frequencies even all the way up at 16K, it sounds very smooth and controlled and not super aggressive like you might, with some EQs, you start boosting, and especially at those really high frequencies, and the sound gets very brittle, it gets very aggressive, but here it still somehow sounds very smooth. Not really sure how they do it. Okay, so I want to show you one more example of this plugin. I'm using it again here on a master. This is a track by Light Leak, and here I'm using it to boost the higher frequencies. So I'm boosting the highs up at 16K, and then I'm doing a bit of attenuation here with the attenuator selected at 20 kilohertz. So let me play you the track without the plugin, and then I'll turn it on and just listen to how that top end just opens up, and it's still, still very clean. So here's with it off. Grooving to the back on that, not taking no slack, check out the sounds. You got to get down to the rhythms of James Brown. Keep grooving to the back on that, not taking no slack. I love how this plugin gives the track a nice airiness. It opens it up. It gives the hats some more presence, and with that, it's you get some stereo field enhancement and some more separation between the center channel and your stereo channel. And with this plugin giving that presence in the upper high frequencies, it makes it sound a bit cleaner, gives it a more polished professional sound instead of sounding a little more lo-fi-ish. So there you have it. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.